Welcome to the Faith Talks Wood podcast. I'm Will from Flat Woodworks.
And I'm Tom from Mountain Valley Maker.
And we're a podcast that talks about everything from Jesus to joinery and a little bit of everything in between. Tom, I feel like it's been kind of a beating the same old drum, but it's supposed to get down to negative 11 degrees tonight here in northwestern Pennsylvania. And let me just say, I was born and raised in this, and this is the stuff I grew up with, but we lived in Tennessee for that, 6 years. And I don't want it to get this cold anymore. I'm done. I'm finished. It can go away. Mother Nature was nice to us last year. I think it maybe got down in the 20s for winter last year. Didn't really get that cold, and it's coming in full force this year. We've had over 100 inches of snow, and very, very cold. So they actually canceled school tomorrow because it's supposed to be the coldest from 6 to 8 a.m. And so they decided to cancel because there's kids that walk to school, that wait at the bus and that kind of thing. And so, so we are in the tundra of northwestern Pennsylvania. Everything's out in Colorado.
Oh, it's a heat wave here. It only got down to 0 last night. So,
yeah,
it's been cold and windy. It was like a high 19 today, and yesterday was like high 12 or something. But the wind blowing and the wind chill factor made it feel in the negatives. And buddy, I tried walking my dog yesterday, and I made it about a third the way down the block, and I was like, "Sorry, buddy, you're going in the backyard. we got to turn around and hightail it back to the house." But he doesn't care. Like, he'll go out there and play, and I'm like, It is too cold to throw ball with you right now. But
that's funny.
All good,
yeah, I was off Monday because it was a federal holiday. When the flag flies, I get the day off. So, but I got home, ran some errands, did some stuff down at the church, and ran some errands, and got home. And we had gotten over the weekend probably 6 inches of snow, and I hadn't plowed the driveway. And we have 4-wheel drive vehicles, and there's supposed to be an Amazon delivery. And I was like, oh, crap, I got to get out there and plow. And so I bundled up, man. I think it got up to maybe 10 degrees, and I was out there plowing in that. It was so cold. Now the difference though is that we know how to dress in the cold, and so you put your long johns on, your jeans. I got my overalls. You layer up enough to where only part of me that was cold on the tractor was my nose. Kind of like my face and my nose and stuff. Yeah, man, it was cold. I'm ready for the spring, and then we deal with mud, but I'd rather deal with mud and be outside than all this cold.
Well, I enjoy winter, but it's just not when it's windy. So
right. Very good. Well, we've got a special guest today. And before we get into that, I just want to say thank you to all the patron supporters out there. Thank you guys for what you do for the podcast. And if you want to support us on Patreon, you can do so on patreon.com/Faith Talks Wood. And then also give us a 5-star review on Apple. Goes a long way and helps people find the podcast easier. And we can't forget to say thank you to Surf Prep Sanding. They're going through a lot right now with the California fires and all the stuff that's been going on over there in California. But when we had Skylar on the podcast, we knew right off that they are the people that we wanted to partner with. And so thank you to Surf Prep Sanding. If you need anything sanding related, surfprep.com. At checkout, use code FAITH. Get 10% off. Helps the podcast out a little bit and gives you a little discount as well. And then finally, go check out our website, faithtalkswood.com. There's some info about Tom and I on there. And pretty soon we'll be having some more information about the retreat coming up too. So thank you all for all you do for the podcast. And we hope and pray that this podcast continues to bless all of you guys listening and that it honors the Lord. So, Tom, who is our guest today?
And so everybody knows, like, I've got a few too many of those green tools in my shop. And I listened to the Festool podcast. And one time they had this young lady on there, and her slogan was just so catchy. I had to go over and search her out on Instagram to see what she was all about. And 3 things to know about this girl. 1, she's an amazing woodworker, builds absolutely beautiful cabinets, loves Jesus, and she loves her dogs. That's for sure. So without further ado, Stevie Estler with Built by Stevie. Welcome to the podcast.
Stevie, welcome.
Tell
Thank
us a
you
little
guys
bit
for
about you.
having me. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Well, I think you described me pretty well. Love Jesus. That's number one. That's every time people ask, they're like, what are your things? I'm like, listen, what you got to know right off the bat, like I unabashedly and unashamed and about my faith, especially on social media. So love Jesus. I'm a really proud auntie. I am obsessed with my niece and 2 nephews, and I have an amazing, I'm super blessed with my family. So we're a family that talks a lot and hangs out a lot. And then, I would say like, I'm a Christian first. My family comes second, and then down the line, friends, and then woodworking kind of comes further down the line. It's in the top 10, but it's not in my top 5. But I'm a woodworker. Yeah. So I'm a carpenter. HER.
Love it.
That's my hashtag is carpenter. I wish I could say that I came up with it, but I did not. But whenever I first started building for friends, one of my good friends at the time is a genius at marketing, and I delivered a piece to her, and she said it, and I turned around. I was like, wait, what? That's amazing. And I was like, one day I'll write you a check because of my slogan logo, hashtag has gone somewhere. So I do sell a lot of merch. I sell a lot of carpenter merch, which is really fun. And then, yes, I have two dogs. They're laying here with the space heater hitting them and hitting me. So I've got a 11-year-old kind of mutt, Macy, who's been with me since she was really, really little. And she's like legit my tag along. And then I've got a 7.5-month-old black lab who's a beast. His name is Cash. And I need to take him to the vet because I think he's got to be 70 something pounds.
Yeah.
Like he was the biggest in the litter whenever I got him. And a lot of people are like, are you sure he's not Great Dane? Like usually that's the first thing people say, like, are you sure he's not a Great Dane? Because he's big. He's a big, big dude. But they're really sweet. They're calm and chilling right now. They've had a crazy, they play outside all day. Even though it's cold here, like y'all were talking about, you're cold. I am just outside of Nashville, Tennessee, in Lebanon, and it's 14 degrees, but with wind chill, it's 4 or 5 degrees right now. So it's chilly. It's cold enough that I can't put water in their bowls outside and like leave them, which is, yeah. Yep. So for the last 2 weeks, and I'm really clean, and I don't have a huge house. It's not small, but it's not this massive house. I'm kind of just where everything is kind of tight and where like the dog bowls are. And my black lab is the messiest water drinker. They say like you either have a clean water drinker or you have a messy water drinker. I have one of both. Macy is very dainty. There is not a drip anywhere. Cash dunks his head and then shakes his face as soon as he's done. And it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So I don't keep water in the house. Like they're also outside, always out on the porch, and they'll let me know if they want to go outside to drink something. So I've made the mistake of leaving water in the water bowls a few nights. And the next thing I know, I'm like pouring hot water, trying to.
My wife is doing the same thing. She was so frustrated because Jack goes outside and she keeps a water bowl out there for him on the back porch. It's just like, I just filled that thing up a little while ago. It's already an ice cube. So.
Yes. Well, Cash also likes the ice cubes. So I will take like a bone or something and break it up. And then he's obsessed. He wants the ice and then Macy wants the water. So it's funny to.
That's funny. If we go to our refrigerator and get ice out, Jack knows that something's going to fall on the floor. He comes running to the fridge and stands and waits just to lick up what it is. He loves it.
Cash, so this is funny. I drink iced coffee. I enjoy coffee. I don't need it. I enjoy it. But I drink iced coffee. Like I don't drink hot coffee. Like
same here. I don't like hot coffee.
Yeah. So like year round, it's freezing and I'm making iced coffee every morning. But Cash knows he knows the routine already at 7.5 months. Whenever I have an espresso, so I do make like, I make an espresso, and it's their specific one for iced coffee. So it makes it super strong. You add the ice, stir it up, and it dilutes it and makes it like a perfect cup. He knows whenever the coffee maker is done that I'm going to go straight to the freezer and start getting ice out. And that dude will be anywhere in the house. And as soon as he hears the coffee maker, as soon as he hears it, like me, like just kind of shut the lid thing, he gets up and runs in and then stands next to the freezer, just like waiting for the ice machine. It's so funny. I'm like, and so now that I realize that he wasn't waiting for the ice machine, he waits for my coffee maker. So I'm like, okay, that's a whole other level of, alertness.
Yeah, they're smart.
They are.
Yeah.
It's like a little iPhone. They know everywhere you go, what you do.
Yeah.
We have a German Shepherd and a Golden Retriever, and our Golden,
two good ones.
She's the dainty drinks. You didn't never know she was there. Just super. You give her a treat, she takes it real softly.
Yes, so gentle.
Yeah, my German Shepherd, she is just wild. She drinks water and she gets her face in it, and it comes up and just everywhere. And then you got to like, Nala, take the treat nicely, and then she'll go, real fast. And so, yeah, we have those two opposites, and they're both they're both dinguses, and we love them. But that's funny. I know with ours, if you're gonna make a sandwich and you open up the cheese,
anything. Any bag,
like
any Tupperware, like any lid that gets opened, they both run in. And I'm like, no, this is not you. And I laugh because my older dog, she knows. Like, she knows she was never allowed in the kitchen. Like, she's never allowed in the kitchen. Like, I never let her hang out in the kitchen. But this house, the kitchen it's like my thoroughway. Like, it's on the way to the other side of the house. It's on the way to the den where I'm pretty much always. And so you're always just in the kitchen. And ever since I got the puppy, now she's like, I'm going to be in the kitchen too if he's in here. And I'm constantly kicking him out. And I actually have a baby gate right here behind me. And if they're being too much, and I've already told them they're both very well behaved and trained, but every now and then they're just dogs and they get up.
Extra.
And I'm like, I can't. Yeah. And my kitchen is small and I will trip, especially the puppy who's not a puppy, who's a 70-pound lump. I mean, he will lay right in the middle of where I'm standing to cook. All of a sudden, it's like I'll turn over, I'll be cooking, and I turn around. I'm like, he snuck in, laid down, I trip over him. So I'm like, no. You're not in here. You're like in there with the gate shut. Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, that's fun.
They're fun.
So we were talking before we started recording. Funny enough, you live about 10 minutes from where I used to live in Tennessee. So it's
small world.
Small world. Didn't realize that, but it's awesome. So, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and a little bit about you. And then, tell us about your love of Jesus and how did Stevie get where Stevie's at today with your walk, and what's that look like over your life?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm originally from South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, actually just north of Miami. So I grew up a total beach kid who has a big love for the Colorado mountains. Because we grew up on the beach, my dad was like, we're going to vacation to the mountains. And so I started skiing at 5. I'm 41. I actually just had a total knee replacement in November, and I will be able to ski in March with my family in Colorado, which I'm so stoked about. So I have knee injuries because of snow skiing. It's not because of like soccer. I never hurt myself in soccer. I hurt my ankles in soccer growing up, but so big Florida girl, but big Colorado girl as well. And yeah, just like I come from I have a really awesome family. Like they're one of those families that like you kind of can't brag enough about because I really am just so like, I have a really good family. I've got parents who are still here and love Jesus and set a really good example of what living a biblical marriage looks like and what a Christian family looks like. That's the family that I grew up in. I was fortunate. I went to a Christian school, K through 12. In South Florida, that's just kind of if you can afford it or you really budget, our family budgeted to be there. And I'm really thankful for that Christian education. Like my brother and I now talk about it with his kids go to a private little Christian school in North Carolina. And we talk about it a lot. Like, we are very, very, very thankful that our parents really made faith like the center of Jesus is was and is still the center of our family and everything. Yeah. So grew up in a Christian school, went to a Christian family. Had a Christian family, went to a Christian school. That was back in the 80s and 90s, whenever you went to church on Sunday and Wednesday and Sunday evening. Like, there was the spaghetti dinner at church, like kind of the potluck style on Wednesday. And you had
Preach.
not just youth group, but like children's programs. I mean, I'm kind of like, let's all get back to that. Like, that was,
Yep.
I liked that. Like, I think growing up in the 80s and 90s and was awesome, especially in the church community. It was really good. And I'm super thankful that is a foundation that I get to stand on, that I got to stand on then, and I still get to stand on now. But yeah, I went to, when you grow up in a Christian home at the beginning stages, your faith is not your own. Your faith is your parents until you really discover. And for me, discovering that that happened at a really young age, but then it also, it's like you kind of get those eye-opening moments with Jesus. And I think they happen, sometimes it's a drastic move, or it's something crazy that happens in your life that points you back to Jesus. And then sometimes it's just circumstances. It's just like, you know what, I go to a Christian camp and I hear the gospel presented. I'm like, wow, that like really clicks. And that was kind of one of the things for me. It really clicked for me whenever I was in middle school, but whenever I was in high school, I realized, like, this is my faith. Like, this isn't my parents' faith anymore. Like, this is me living my life for Jesus. And what does this look like? And I was really fortunate enough to have just good friends. And again, I was at a Christian school, so I was a little bit, I want to say, sheltered, because everything that happens at a public school happens at a Christian school. It's just It's just directed a little bit differently, and it's handled differently. It's handled with Christ. And so things just look a little differently, but I saw all of it. I saw all of the world whenever I was in high school and college. But yeah, I got to know Jesus a lot better when I was in high school and in college. And then I went to like a seminary grad program after college. So I worked for a year and then did an awesome program that we just got to study our Bibles for a whole year. And it was really cool. And I met some amazing people who are now some like lifelong friends that I will forever have because of that place. And it allowed me to, I moved to Texas and worked for kind of a travel agency company and did some travel stuff for them, but then also helped do Christian women's conferences for a small section of their company, which was really fun. And I got to work in full-time youth ministry for a little bit. And I've kind of I worked at a church and then a Christian school right out of college. It's like when I was in high school, I helped out with middle school youth group. When I was in college, I helped out with like middle school and high school youth group. And I just kind of always was helping and doing and active. I look back, I'm like, man, I forgot how much church, like how much I was really involved in church. And by my choice, it wasn't my parents like pushing me. Like, I still love being around Christians. Like, there is something that's very steady and calm. And even though the world can be crazy at times, like, there is something that's just so reassuring being around other fellow believers. And I think that we are supposed to be out in the world proclaiming our faith, but also we are supposed to be surrounded by believers. And I think especially in a society kind of like today where things can be, I think people try and be very divisive. I think people throw divisiveness out now. I don't think the world is actually as divisive as people make it out to seem, but I think people try and throw shade at that. And I think a lot of the shade comes to Christians that, oh, you're whatever, and you're doing this, you're doing that, you say this. And it's like, hold on, actually, I just want to be around these people. I want to be around people who love Jesus, who are going to encourage me, love me, push me closer to Jesus, and I get to support in the exact same way. And I love my church. Like, I go to an awesome church called The Journey out here in Lebanon. We have a phenomenal pastor who's super exegetical. I mean, like, we go through New Testament for like 12. We do like things in 12 and like weeks, six weeks essentially. So it's like, but 12 weeks of New Testament, 12 weeks of Old Testament. And then we'll do like a 6-week series. Right now we're in we're talking about ecclesia, the beginning of the church.
Yep.
So we're in week 3 of that, and it's so good. And, and then I'm in a life group. I'm in a life group with 4 other families where we, on Sundays after church, we just happen to meet on Sundays, but on Sundays after church, like we get together after the service and we sit and talk. Like the kids all go upstairs to the playroom and hang out, and all the adults are downstairs, and we talk. Like we just talk for a little bit, and then we talk about the sermon for a little bit, and then all the kids come down and we have a huge meal together and hang out. And Sundays are legitimately my favorite days of the week. Like I love other days, but at the end of the day, Sunday, it's like I get to go to church. I get to hang out with some of my favorite people. And then I really like rest. Like the rest of the day, I usually hardly ever do anything else on Sundays. Like sometimes I'll run an errand or 2, but I just come home and chill, and kind of get ready for the week. Cause I know once Monday starts, I'm back into it. But anyways, that's kind of a tangent off on all of that. But yeah, so at the end of the day, I look back on my life and I look back, I've actually a pretty crazy story. So I do come from an amazing, amazing Christian family, but sexual abuse is in my background. And it's something it's one of those things that it's like, you can Google me and you can hear my testimony about sexual abuse. And I've become a very big advocate for victims and for children, big time for children. But, it's like, I don't have to go into details on that, but it happened whenever I was a kid, and whenever it came out, my faith was rocked and my family's faith was rocked. And it was one of those things that I learned how to kind of squash it because I didn't want to talk about it when I was a kid and it wasn't the right time. But I'm a huge fan of counseling, like because of one of my best friends. Like I got into counseling whenever I moved to Nashville, and I started diving into my story really for the first time at 28. And Jesus rocked my world again and showed me love like there is no other, from my friends and from my family, who just literally wrap their arms around me and they're like, hey, we're here. And what I know because of it is it has made me an extremely strong woman who relies on Jesus and knows that there is absolutely nothing that can shake me from my faith at the end of the day. Like this is, I do think that Jesus gives us, not that like that one verse that gets taken out of context, like he won't give you more than you can handle. No, if you read further in the next couple of verses, like he does actually give you more than you can handle because he wants you to rely on him. And in trial and tribulation, especially like whenever you have something like mine that, happened for a couple years and it's like so far in the past, but at the end of the day, it affected a lot of things for a long time, even little things I didn't think about. That I didn't think it would affect. But, it's like how you talk to a friend, how you talk to a parent, how you talk to a sibling, how you talk to a spouse, how you talk to someone you're dating. Like it can affect these tiny little things. And I didn't realize it. I just kind of stuffed and went on with life. And as I got older, I was like, wow, I actually kind of have to deal with this. So I always laugh. I'm like, I have a BC life. Like I have a before Christ life, but I also have a before counseling life. And I went to a Christian counselor who is just amazing, a pastor's wife, who got her counseling degree, and just one of those women who just helped me make sense of life. Like at the end of the day, she helped me make sense of life. And at the end of the day has made me a better friend, a better boss, a better sister, to everyone involved in my life. Like it's because of this. And I'm able to now use my platform and use my voice, especially like in this kind of little crazy woodworking world that I happened to throw myself into a little over a decade ago, that I get to be really outspoken about Jesus, but I get to be outspoken about sexual abuse and that it happens. And the statistics are pretty crazy. It's 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 4 boys before the age of 18. And that's a crazy statistic that should not happen. And it's one of those things that it's sad. It's really sad. And it's sad that America is one of the worst countries for human and sex trafficking. Like, it's sad. It's like more people, more voices need to stand up for something like this. And I think this is, for me, this is like one of my hot topics that I like want to talk about. I want to preach from the rooftops and talk about Jesus in this way and his healing. And I got to be a part of a really awesome ministry years ago, and watching women and men walk out of the strongholds that have held them for years. I mean, for years. People who've been married who hadn't told their spouse for years. I mean, hadn't told their spouse until they heard me tell my story. And then they're like, I got to tell my spouse. I'm like, yeah, you do. You got to tell them, and then you got to find a counselor, and then you got to get your church body involved, because you're going to need a group of people who are going to come around you and love you. And so, at the end of the day, if I close the podcast right now, I would just say, like, you need to rely on Jesus, number one, and then you need to rely on the body of Christ, number two. And I think as a believer, and getting to encourage and love on other people is one of the coolest things ever. And how I kind of get to do it is the woodworking world. Like, I get to talk about wood and have these awesome conversations with people about fixing up their house and designing something better. And then they hop on social media, because I tell them, I'm like, hey, go, if you want to know, like, the behind the scenes, like, I'm telling you what's going on behind the scenes in our shop. And the next thing they know, I'm talking about Jesus pretty constantly on my Instagram. And I get a lot of hate.
Yes.
And then I also get a lot of love and encouragement. I get a lot of people like, man, you're like unabashedly, that's the word this past week that's said to me a couple times, like, unabashedly talking about Jesus. I'm like, heck yeah. Like, this is, I don't know. I got into woodworking because I bought my first house in 2013 and wanted to fix it up. And I laid my own hardwoods. And next thing I know, my uncle gave me a miter saw, and he showed me how to use it and use the tape measure the right way. Because you cut on one side of the blade, it's a different cut, So he shows me how to read a tape measure and cut the right way in 2013. I mean, we're literally talking 12 years ago. And I got the bug. I got the build bug, and I started Googling how to build furniture. Next thing I know, I've built furniture for my own house. I'm working for a small startup company at the time. And yeah, I'm just building. I'm literally building for myself. I was house poor, and I had, not enough furniture to furnish the house. And so I built it. I built my furniture to furnish the house. And then in 2015, I lost what I thought was my dream job. And to keep me busy while I was looking for a new job, I just started building. I posted on social media, hey, if anyone needs anything, let me know. I'd love to build it for you. I have a new Instagram called Built by Stevie. And next thing I know, I get I've got a couple hundred followers, and then it's like a little bit more, and then a little bit more. And then people are saying, hey, will you build us something? Will you build us something? I said, sure. I don't know how to do it, but I'm going to do it. And I would watch a YouTube video. I have this old cabinet book that my uncle gave me that was my grandfather's, that I would read through about the old way of doing joinery, not new ways with machines, but like old ways. And so I have I build my cabinets much more mortise and tenon, with dados and rabbets. And so we use some screws, but we're mainly joints building that way. And so, so I build a little old school. I'm not an IKEA builder, so I design and build high-end furniture, and then like kitchen cabinets and built-in. So I was known as the built-in queen for a good handful of years in Nashville, because I was the only girl in Nashville that was doing what I was doing. I'm not a DIYer. I build like really nice, high quality pieces. And, no offense to DIY, because I started out as a DIYer. I love the DIY game. But, I went from buying Home Depot wood to now, I get a delivery every Tuesday and Wednesday from my the lumber companies that I work with and whatnot. And the job has changed just a little bit. I went from starting in my 400 square foot 2-car garage where everything was on nesting tables and I'd move tools around, and to a bigger shop that was about 1,400 square feet. And now I built my dream shop in my backyard almost 5 years ago, 3,200 square foot beautiful shop that we're about to add on to this spring. And yeah, like I've got a team. I've got to think. I've got five guys that work for me. I had an all-female team for a few years. That was awesome, but everyone just kept on getting married and pregnant, and so now I've got all guys in the carpenter, and they're an awesome team. I have a great team. It's full. I've got believers on my team, which is really cool. So my entire team believe in Jesus, and we talk about it a lot. Like we sit around today talking in the shop for a good hour, like over an hour. We talked about faith and politics.
That's amazing.
It's awesome. It's really awesome.
Man,
that's fantastic. So you were talking about the verse gets taken out of context. 1 Corinthians 10:13. Right?
Yeah.
Paul, no temptation has seized you except what is common to man, and God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. That's where they stop.
Yep.
But when you are tempted, he will also provide an escape so that you can stand up under it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fantastic. When you're talking about the human sex trafficking and the abuse and all that, I went to in 2012. I went to the Passion Conference in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I was introduced to sex trafficking. I never thought of it being in the United States, and it was a big thing. And and then you talked about counseling. I've dealt with some family trauma growing up, and counseling was one of the best things I ever did. Saw a Christian counselor in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and spent some time with him, and it really helped me realize that through all of what I'd been through, I actually struggle with shame, and I didn't realize it. And when he was able to point that out in me and kind of help me walk through it, my outlook has been just so. I'm a huge advocate on counseling, Christian counseling, and and even if you think you don't need counseling, you probably do.
You probably do. Yeah. It's like, I say it's like, it's a checkup. Like, it's just a good, like you go to the doctor for your physical health. Like, also I think going to counseling for your mental health. It's like, and some people some people need intensive counseling. I needed it like right off the bat whenever I first started, I did need intensive counseling. I needed to deal with stuff. And then, but now I go every handful of months, kind of a check-in, unless something crazy happens. My mom was very sick last year. We almost lost her. It's literally a miracle that she's still around. And now like in good health, like, she's not doing too bad. But last year, like that was kind of I also was dealing with 2 insanely hard clients at the time, like insanely hard. And I was having a hard time coming to grips with honestly my mom being sick, and that just kind of that went into other areas. And then these 2 general contractors that were just the worst, literally the worst. And I texted my counselor and was like, can I just come in and like chat? I just need to I need just a little help. I just need a little help. And she laughed. She's like, yeah, come in. And it was nice. We sat, we talked. She asked some really good questions and had me thinking like, hey, are you transferring this over here whenever you should be dealing with this over here? And it's like, yeah, actually I have been running away from a few things that I do need to hit head on. And I think that's where a huge fan of counseling, but again, back to Jesus, if you are a believer, you have absolutely no business going to a non-Christian counselor. You need, especially someone who can not have a say in, like they're having a say in your life. Not that you have to do what they're saying, but someone who if anyone is speaking wise counsel into you, it needs to be biblical. That's what I've got some friends, I wouldn't call them mentors, but I've got quite a few friends who are non-believers who have, said some great beneficial things in my life. But there's a lot of things that they say that I also take with not a grain of salt. I'm taking like the whole freaking salt shaker and pouring it on what they say, because I love them dearly, but I'm like, yeah, was that filtered through the cross before you came and gave me advice, or, and not that we can't take advice from non-Christians, because I think you 100% can, but I just think at the end of the day, whenever you're getting wise counsel from someone, they need to be a believer. especially in the
Amen.
counseling setting.
Amen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Clearly
Man.
passionate about
Yeah.
like biblical counseling.
Absolutely. And, we've talked about it. Listeners know I was in youth ministry for several years as well. And so you resonated with me on several aspects of counseling and the youth ministry stuff. I mean, that
I had a
burnt
lot
me
of pizza,
out.
man. I ate a
Oh,
lot
Little
of pizza.
Caesars. Woo.
Oh, Little Caesars. Oh, what was there's another one I cannot remember. Oh, they have really good garlic crust, but it will come to me.
Oh, is that Hungry Howie's?
Yes, Hungry Howie's.
Yeah.
That's why I just always remember the commercials back in the day. Really good and like super cheap. Yeah, I ate a lot of pizza. I ate a lot of pizza in the early 2000s.
Yeah, right. That's hilarious. Very good. Love the fact that you're unashamed about your faith, and these platforms, Instagram, all the stuff that we, Facebook, all the stuff. A lot of people are afraid to share their faith out there, because there's this fear of the world, there's this fear of rejection, and the reality is that, boy, if I have a platform and I don't use it for His glory and His good, I shouldn't be using it at all. And so, the fact that you are unashamed about that, and like people are like, wow, Stevie builds amazing cabinets, amazing furniture. And you go to her page and you start watching her stories and she's talking about Jesus. Well, she's more passionate about that than she is that cabinet she built you. And that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah. It really is on purpose too. It's like, I'm always when I have always talked about my faith on social media, like I always have, but I will say actually, in 2020, I went like all out. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to sit behind and not say certain things. And especially when it comes to faith stuff, I'm like, I'm just not going to sit back. I'm not going to sit back. I'm not going to get tramped over. As believers, like we are called, like, first off, we're called to put on the full armor of God. It's like, God is literally telling us like, hey, you got to get ready to battle. And this isn't just like battle every now and then. This is battle every day, like every single day. We are fighting the enemy, and the enemy is Satan, and Satan is out to kill, steal, and destroy. And he will use whomever, whatever to get in. And so, I think about that. It's like, no, I've got to stand up. Like like this year I'm reading through the Bible. I'm doing the Bible recap app. I love it. I have not read through the Bible entirely in a very, very long time. Cause it's like I did it many, many, many years ago, but now it's just like, I'm studying different books of the Bible. But, I really I kind of felt convicted this past year. Like, man, I haven't done that in a really long time. And I really need to, this needs to be a daily thing for me. And I've never been a good devotion, person. It's like, I'll go through waves. Like I ebb and flow. Sometimes it's like, unless I'm in like a really good, unless I'm in like a solid Bible study at the time where I've got weekly stuff that I've got to stay on top of. And usually sometimes I'm the person that will wait till, if it's on Thursday night, it's like on Thursday, I'm the person on Wednesday night who's cramming beforehand. And so I kind of felt guilty about that. I was like, you know what? I need to be in scripture every single day. I'm a super audible type learner. And I do actually have a crazy memory, a crazy visual memory for reading things. I remember English classes, I would ask my teacher, I would be stuck on writing a paragraph. I'm like, hey, can you tell me the first sentence on page 271, the second paragraph down? And they would, and it starts with this, and they'd read me a couple. I'm like, that's it. Perfect. Thank you. And I could go and write. But the older I've gotten, the more audible I've gotten, which is crazy because I can still look at things and remember drawings. I feel like my clients' drawings are all Rolodexes in my head. I just have to kind of spin it around so I get to their name, pull it out. And that's a whole other story for you guys later. You have to remind me because my staff think it's hilarious. But I was like, I need to read the Bible. I need to go back through the Bible. So I'm like, I'm going to do the Bible recap. People have been talking about it. Super easy. I have the Dwell Bible app. And so every morning I'm on the schedule, and and January is the easiest month because whatever day it is, that's the date of the plan. And so, like today was day 21 and we're in Genesis. And so it was the story of Isaac and Esau and the stolen birthright. And, I listened to 3 chapters, and because that was on the plan. And then you go to the podcast and they do a breakdown for like 5 minutes of just a recap of what you just learned. And then I also will take a couple little notes if, so my church has been going through Genesis for 2.5 years. It's really funny. Cause we're only doing 12 weeks at a time. And I mean, it's been 2.5 or at least 2 years. And we're in Genesis 20, we are far from over. That's how long we're taking to go through. But it's and then I did I did the New Testament this winter, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to start back from the very beginning and do a full 365. And so my goal, literally every morning, it's the first thing I do whenever I wake up. I kind of let the dogs out, and then I just put my phone on speaker. I've got surround sound around the house. So I literally put it on. So any room that I walk into, I've got the Bible going for in the morning, which is great. And I retain it. So anyway, so it's been fun to do the Bible recap. And, but yeah, I think talking about that, being open about reading the Bible. And it is really crazy. I don't get as much hate as I used to. Now there's certain things that I'll say and I'll get crazy DMs, how dare you, stay in your lane, dumb stuff like that. But then it is really wild because I get for every one of those, I get not even kidding you, 100 kind comments and DMs, and just super loving and encouraging. And every single time I share Bible stuff, every single time, especially if I share a Bible verse, and what it means to me, it's crazy the stories that I get back from people. And it's in those, today wasn't even a Bible verse. I just shared something. I'm really big into health, food, what goes in our ingredients and medicines and whatnot. And I'm that nerd that reads medical journals at night. I'm like, whoa, that's in there. Holy crap. Then sending it to my family and all that. So I posted something earlier today just about crumble cookies. They're literally very bad for you. They have so much junk in them. And I had a sweet follower send me a very kind DM, and she was just like, thank you for always sharing the things that other people don't share. And I'm like, man, okay. Well, I guess in this arena that whoever she's following, that people are not sharing this stuff. They're not sharing their faith. They're not. And she's I scrolled back through just to kind of look at the last, bunch of DMs that she sent. And it was thanks for sharing this Bible verse. Thanks for sharing this. And I love those. I freaking love those that people acknowledge it. And I think that's something that my staff and I were talking about. I was listening to another podcast, and I was on Instagram, and she's a comedian, and they stopped her in New York, and they're like, hey, you look like a baller. You're just bossing up and down the street, so confident. And she's like, thank you. I am. I'm like, well, what makes you so confident? And she's like, honestly, and she talked about God for a little bit. And then she goes, and at the end of the day, you just need to compliment people. And I was like, you know what? That's so true. Every single time I got off the plane 2 weeks ago, and I got off for Christmas, and older gentleman had a beautiful hat on. It was a nice, not a flat bill, a nice, kind of like the smoker's hat that my grandfather used to wear. And he looked very classy. It's the old way of flying whenever gentlemen used to wear a jacket on the airplane. And that's what he looked like. He just looked like a classy flyer. And so I walked by him and I said, hey, you look real good. And your hat is real nice. And he's like, thank you so much. And a smile. I'm like, man, why can't we that's not tooting my own horn, but it's why can't every single time, I see a girl walk by that looks beautiful, a fabulous dress, I will compliment her. And they're always a little bit thrown back. There's well, thank you. And it's what if we could do more kind and nice things and not just walk by and not say, it's where everyone's so afraid to say hi and compliment. And I refuse to do that. I'm known for my smile, and I want to smile a ton at people. And I So I just like, whenever I walk around the grocery store and I walk around Home Depot or whatever, like I'm smiling. Like people are like, what? Is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm alive. You're alive. Let's go. How's your day? You have a good day? And I think at the end of the day, like I want to love people really well. I want to love people really well.
I think that's so important because it makes you stand out. And I think this is First in Peter. I'm drawing a blank on where it's at, but it says that we're to always be prepared to share the hope that is in us. Well, how are people going to know that there's a hope in you if you're walking around frowning and grumbly all the time?
Yes.
We're supposed to be a light in the world.
Yes.
And it is
like
a
he
dark...
makes our joy complete.
Yes. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's just, listen, I've had some crazy stuff happen in my past, but that does not define my future. And, at the end of the day, like sometimes I feel like as Christians, sometimes we sound so cheesy, but like, no, man, heaven's going to be awesome. Like I look forward to eternal life.
Me too.
It's like, I don't want to die right now. I still want to like this. I want to keep on living, but at the same time, I'm like, Jesus, if you take me, whew. I mean, I know everyone, my friends and family are going to miss me, but man, they're also going to be so excited and stoked that I am with Jesus. And yeah, I think about that. Like anytime, anytime like you hear hard news from someone that is maybe like end of life. We had a close family member pass away recently, and our family friend, and he had struggled for a really long time with Parkinson's, and we were all just we're like, man, Mr. Bill's with Jesus. Like he hasn't walked in years and he is legitimately dancing with Jesus right now. Like that's cool. That's just so cool. And that's like, it's the eternal hope. It's the eternal joy. It's not even, honestly, it's not even hope because we know it's going to be awesome. So I'm not hoping for that. I'm wishing. I'm like, all right, it's going to be glory.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting that I've found is going to a funeral of a believer compared to going to a funeral of a non-believer. I mean, there's this hope and there's this, even though there's sadness, there's this like joy in knowing that like they're dancing on the streets of gold, right? But then you go to a funeral, somebody who, the family and them, they're not believers, and there's just this mourning of, like they don't know what's going to come next, and it's sad. It really is. I hate to say it, right? But we have a joy within us that that we are to celebrate. And David danced in the streets undignified, right? And I think it's something that we need to do more of. The smile. There's a YouTuber, Roman Atwood. He has a thing called Smile More.
Yeah.
Right? Just that thing about just smiling. I love it. Very good. Wow. So here's a random question for you. I'm a Bible nerd. What's your translation of choice?
Oh, okay. So I got an NASB Bible. Yep. When I was in grad school, that was on when we walked in the first day. They had they had all the desks set up, our tables, whatever we sat at, and there was a Bible at every single spot with a Mountain Hardware like bag, and then we did precepts. So Kay Arthur's study of precepts, it's exegetical studying, like verse by verse. They uses scripture to back up scripture. And so that was like our Bible study whenever we were there, even though we were learning the Bible, we also were in Bible studies, and we all did a precept Bible study. I can't remember which. I think we did 1 Timothy, Ruth, and then something else. Anyways, so I had always been an NIV kid because I feel like literally
80s and 90s.
In the 80s and 90s, that's what it was,
right.
was NIV. Yep. And so here I have like an NASB Bible, and that's what I memorized out of and like read and used. And then every church has like switched over to ESV. So I listened to ESV, but I my Bible that I study and read out of is NASB.
Awesome.
I think they're so similar, like so similar. But it's so our church, every Sunday when, all right, go ahead and stand up with me as we read today's scripture. And I stand up, everyone's got their ESVs out and I'm literally like reading along. I'm like, it's like you hear the words and then you read the words, they're like not exactly the same, just a little bit translations here and there. But I love, I think I have like 3 or 4 ESVs in the bookcase in there. Because everyone loves giving gifts like Bible gifts. I'm like, I just got my NASB recovered. I paid a crap ton of money, but it looks awesome. I also got 3 of the tags, like the little ribbon tags. Mm-hmm. They're like, hey, how many ribbons do you want? I go, there's more than one option. Like you don't get, like, I thought it was just one, like every Bible just came with one. And the guy was like, no, you can literally have like up to 12 or so. It was more than 10.
Right.
Like,
right.
And I go, I'm just going to go for 3.
I wish I had more than one.
Hey, I learned how to do my own. I can take ribbons out and put ribbons in.
Oh, there you go.
It's so easy. You could do it. It takes like if you have some CA glue.
Actually, you could totally do it with some CA glue. Yeah.
So it's super easy to do. I watched
Starbond. Would you like to sponsor?
Yeah, right. And I did that. I added some to a couple of my Bibles, but you're the first person I've talked to that is a NASB fan. No, and that's a good thing. Like most people are NIV or your hardcore King James person. ESV is really popular. I love hearing about the NASB. I've got a NASB up there. I've got 24 Bible translations. Don't judge me, okay?
There you go. There you go.
The judgment. And I think that one's a 77.
Okay.
It's an old NASB.
Yeah, but, this is the Kay Arthur like inductive study Bible. Well, it's not her study Bible. It's just called the inductive study Bible. But it uses precepts. Like, so whenever you open it up, it breaks down the chapter, how precepts breaks down. So it has like the different precepts is all about colored pencils. So like marking, it's like there's a different mark for Jesus. There's a mark for God. There's a mark for the Holy Spirit. So whenever you're reading through scripture, like you take your colored pencil and, do the cross with this like half L for Jesus and the full triangle for God. And then the Holy Spirit was like the backwards line and with a squiggly. Yeah, it's cool. I love it. Like different books of the Bible that I've like really inductively studied. Those are just color pencil marked up. But it's fun whenever I go to restudy those. And I'm like, I remember like the colored pencils bring back the memories of the studying each time. And I'm also a writer. I write in my Bible.
I do too.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got like I've got these special, actually I have one right here, these Micron special pens. That don't bleed through the Bible. And I'm an 05. Even my lead for my pencils, 05, 07. Write in all over my Bible. So whenever I got my Bible rebound, I was like, oh man, I hope I don't lose any notes. And thankfully I didn't. There was like how they did a really good job. Also, my Bible was not trash. Like the cover, it's just starting to peel off a little bit. So, but I was like, I've had this Bible since 2007. So I was like, well, I can't think now. It'd been 15 years, 17 years. So I was like, it needs to get fixed up. So
that's awesome. And you said ESV at your church. I'm pretty sure Journey has a Southern Baptist roots.
We do. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So ESV
I grew up PCA. So I'm actually I'm a PCA, a Calvinist who goes to a Baptist church.
Well, a lot of Baptists are Reformed, and we
are definitely a Reformed church. But a couple times we do Wednesday midweek classes, and they break down a lot of stuff, and they also have like every other month they'll do like a Saturday like intensive study on a certain subject. It's been really cool. We had a Muslim come and debate one of our pastors, which was really, really cool.
Interesting.
Like the church is doing some cool stuff. Like they took apart tulip and explained like tulip to the Baptists. Like we did an Arminianism versus Calvinism, like a quick, like that was another like 3 hour Saturday, just breaking it down. We had, with everything that's been going on in Israel, we had an awesome Jewish rabbi come in and talk, with, and do like, I mean, we talked about Jesus. It was really cool. That was a really awesome one. So like kind of a little bit debating back and forth. And even, I think the rabbi, I've been to Israel and it was crazy. Our tour guide, was Jewish and he's with, 47 Christians. So I went after grad school. And so you've got a bunch of very Bible-filled, hungry, eager 20-year-olds who are like, we'll talk about our faith. Like we'll talk about it. And it was really, I mean, he's like, man, I've been doing this tour with your group for years. And he goes, every year I think a little bit more about Jesus. We're like, come on, man.
Yes.
Come on.
Bring it.
And like,
Bring it.
each class is like, are we going to be the class that brings Ravi to Jesus? Like,
That's cool.
That's amazing. So you were saying something about a shop story about your memory or something.
Yes. Okay. So I was telling you guys, like I have I do still have a pretty visual memory. And this is whenever I knew that woodworking like was a gift, that it wasn't just like a job for me, but it was actually a gift that I had been given by the Lord. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the show, The Good Doctor. But he's actually an autistic doctor who is super talented, and he can take the human body and he will be mid-surgery or they'll be talking about something and he kind of throws it like hologram up into the air and rebuilds the body while he's literally envisioning the body while he's in surgery. And I've always, even as a kid, I was the kid that was taking apart things. Like my CD player, oh my gosh, I had this tape deck that I can't tell you how many times I took it apart and would like rewire the speakers. I just was that person. Like I was always taking stuff apart and building. And even like my brother and I, like we grew up in South Florida. We were always outdoors. We were skateboarding and skating and building a ramp and building a grind rail for our rollerblades and just and my dad is not handy. Like my dad is the least handy person. He would hire someone to flush a toilet for him. Like he's just not handy. But my brother and I are. And so I've always been that person. It's like taking things apart. So I start building and I start envisioning literally like these builds. Like I can in my head literally throw like this prime example. We're building a kitchen right now in the shop. And I will we will start building and my guys will have the plans. We've already been like cut lists. All of a sudden I'm like, wait a second, hold on. And I will stop in the middle of the shop and they sit there like, you literally just stop. And it's like, I look up, I look down at like the build and then I kind of look up in the sky and I'm rebuilding the kitchen in my head to make it better, to make it flow better, to move cabinets around. It's like, we'll hit a roadblock on a random, like, there'll be a random wall that's jutting out. I'm like, how the heck am I going to do this in this project to make it look really good, but also be usable, but also I've got to hide this stupid wall that the old builders decided to run plumbing through and it cannot be moved, but I've got to put a massive cabinet right there. So next thing I know, I'm literally rebuilding something in my entire head. Rebuilding it in my head and I'll walk away and my staff are like, you just made it better, didn't you? I'm like, I did. I'm like, I just made it so much better. It's going to be so much better. And they'll laugh. They're like, man, you like literally just came up with, I'm like, it will come to me and I will rebuild an entire kitchen in my head. Like, so I don't need SketchUp. I just do it up here.
You are SketchUp.
I am SketchUp. So it is, it's like, but that's whenever I knew that like, this was honestly like a gift. Like this was just something I was going to be good at. And it's been really fun to like hone in a skill that 15 years ago, I would have laughed if you had said, hey, you're going to be building like in 2025, you are going to be running a business that is run out of your backyard and you're going to be in over 300 homes across the country. and you will be a household name in building. And I'm like, nope, that's not me. That's not me. I'm in marketing and sales and I'm doing this. No, never, ever, ever. Like, I still cannot believe that I do what I do, that I walk down my driveway 250 some feet from my back door to the front of the shop with the dogs, and I walk into legitimately my dream shop. Like, I can have a bad attitude, I can be upset, I can be mad, and I can walk in the front door of my shop and I'm like, I'm here. Like, this is mine. Like, I legitimately built this, and I get to play with wood for the next 8 to 10 hours. And I get to hang out with some really great people while doing it. And it's really fun. Like, it's wild to me. It is incredibly wild that this is what I get to do.
So
That's
cool.
awesome. So, shop talk. Yeah, are you saws? You got Festool sanders. Like, what's your shop looking like?
I got all that. I've got 3 table saws. They all have different purposes. We've got our Delta RT40, which is our bread and butter table saw. It's primarily used for all of our rip cuts. I do have a saw stop. I bought one in 2021 because the Delta motor went down and I needed a saw ASAP because I run a business and there were no saws anywhere. So I drove up to Missouri, and Grizzly actually was selling saw stops. And so I went ahead and invested in a saw stop. I do have some younger staff that are homeschool kids that work in the shop a couple days a week. So I wanted to make sure, like, if I'm, doing classes with moms and daughters and whatnot, and then have younger kids in the shop, I'm like, I just need one saw that's insurance safe. So saw stop is primarily used for all of our cross cutting. We have a crosscut sled hooked up to it. Their crosscut sled, which I'm actually not a fan of, super wobbly for an incredibly expensive saw. It's a pretty dumb. I can get on a soapbox about saw stop. I think it's a great mechanics, but the overall, some of the stuff on the saw, I'm like, not so much. And then we've got a Powermatic saw, their Astro Glide Powermatic saw that we absolutely love. And that's what we do all of our dado cuts. So again, we probably do, our business ebbs and flows. We do anywhere between 15 to 30% furniture, and the rest are cabinets, built-ins. So our 3 saws are used all the time. Like, the Delta is for sure the workhorse, but the Powermatic gets used for all the dado cuts. So every single cabinet piece runs through the Powermatic. So I really like that their Astro Glide stuff is really awesome. It works really, really well. And then I don't think it's called Astro Glide though. It's called something else. What is it? I don't know. It's their black glide. It's awesome though.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah, they're putting on a bunch of their tools. Their planer. Actually, they've got a whole line, like their planer, their joiner. They've got their edge sander now has it. I don't know about their drill press. I know the bandsaw does too, but it's awesome. It's a great line from Powermatic. We've primarily Festool sanders. We've got a Surf Prep sander that I really like. Yeah, we've got their little 4x3 corner sander, and we use that for cabinet doors and whatnot. But
Armor Glide from Powermatic.
Armor Glide. I was saying Astro Glide. I don't know what is Astro Glide something. I have no idea.
AstroTurf. I don't know.
AstroTurf. I have no idea. So I'm putting words all there together, but yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, we've got a bunch of Festool sanders, and they're all hooked up to Festool vacuums. So I definitely bit into the Festool world. I have a lot of Festool tools, but they're awesome.
We had Drew Wood on the podcast, and he told us a story. The CEO of Festool USA is a believer.
Oh, I love that.
So just something to keep in the back of your mind as you're using all the green stuff.
Yeah.
And he told us about, he got to tour their place and they take care of their people and how much they're like family. And so
They do. They're actually, I'll be up at an event with them up in February 12th, I think. I'll be up at an event with them up in Indiana. I got to tour their warehouse. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before. I feel like every year just runs in together now, but I love Festool. They're awesome. They're really good people. I've worked with them on a couple projects. I'm fortunate, actually. Jet and Powermatic are here in Smyrna, Tennessee. So just like 25 minutes from me. So I actually do a lot with Jet. So I'm moving into their Powermatic world, but I've done a lot of stuff with Jet. I think if you open up pretty much any woodworking catalog right now, you will probably see a picture of me or my hands touching a Jet tool. So I did a massive photo shoot with them last year and their entire Jet garage line. So yeah, so I will say I get a lot of DMs, and my post office, my PO box, I have some really sweet followers that they'll sometimes see me in a catalog and they'll tear the page out and like mail it to me, which is so like, it's just like this, it's like something my dad does. It's something that like my grandparents would have done. And like I have some very sweet followers who have been following my journey since the beginning of it. Yeah. And they're so kind. Like they'll take a screenshot of their email and send it to me. They'll email my, I have an admin assistant, and Lindsay will, it's cute. Sometimes she'll forward it to me, but sometimes she'll like take a screenshot of it and send it to text it to me. She's like, you have to see this. Like, this is a really cute email from someone that saw your picture in a catalog or on an email. But I love Jet and Powermatic. Like, those guys are awesome. Quite a few believers at that place as well.
Yeah. And so Powermatic was founded in McMinnville, Tennessee, which is where my old bank that I worked for was based out of. And they banked Powermatic, and then Powermatic, they got moved out of the country at one point, and then now they're back in the Smyrna area. But a lot of Tennessee history with Powermatic.
A lot of Tennessee history. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, I've got a lot of awesome tools. I haven't done I can't remember if I did a wood shop tour video. It's been a minute. I had one it's funny. It's one of those things that people ask for, and I'll be like, yeah, I'll do it. And then I just that's the hard thing for me is that, we were talking before we hit the record button, like you were asking if I did like content creation and whatnot. And I used to actually really play the content creation game. I cared about the numbers. I really did. I cared about the numbers and the likes, and I posted a lot, and it served me very well. It's also great. It's also good that I have a really nice hashtag with Carpenter, and less than 1% of women are doing what I'm doing on the scale that I'm doing it at. So there is it's a little different, but it doesn't bother me. I don't care. I like being the 1%, and but I've been very fortunate to be. Social media has helped a lot. Like it's paid some bills, which is really fun. But in 2020, like I really actually got over it, and I would hop off. Like I just stopped I just kind of stopped posting. I stopped caring. I stopped caring about the numbers, and I realized that I wanted to create a little bit more of like behind the scenes intimate, like more me. Not that I was very vague or rude or anything beforehand, but I didn't share a lot of me beforehand. I shared just builds, like just here's a picture of here's what I did. I didn't talk much about myself or like my family. Like that was just I had a personal Instagram and I had a business Instagram, and I really kept those lines very separate. And in 2020, I was like, you know what? No more. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it all. And you're going to see there's been times I've cried, like happy tears. There's been times I've cried sad tears. I shared a video it was a year ago of just like, and I cried. I was like, man, I'm so thankful for where I am. Like I have this business that I never thought I'd have. And I was just crying like in the video. I would have never posted that 10 years ago, ever. 7 years ago, I never would have. But that was one of those things like, I just, it's again, like Jesus convicts you in certain things. And I really felt that like I have been given this insane platform that I never thought I'd have in the woodworking world. Like I'm a beach kid from South Florida who now lives like kind of in the boonies in Middle Tennessee, who does woodworking. Like I went from, I don't want to be like high fashion, but I went from, you know, wearing business suits in marketing and finance world to now I'm in running shoes with like true work carpenter pants on and a t-shirt, like with a, you know, a tape measure on my hip and a pencil and a knife in my pocket. I'm like, who am I? Like, this is not the same Stevie that was, you know, over a decade ago. I worked for Lululemon for a handful of years. Like I wore workout clothes, and I mean, just like I've had a lot of really fun, different jobs, and now I'm woodworking. Like I still think it's hilarious that this is actually really funny. I don't like getting dirty. I do not like getting dirty. I played soccer, and my parents would laugh. They're like, it would take you like a good bit of the game until I would do a slide tackle. But once I got dirty, I was good. I was good to be dirty the whole game. So it's like, sometimes my dad would like, just slide tackle the first 5 minutes and then you'd be covered in grass and you'd be good for it. So today I was like, I'm in, my shop is probably the cleanest wood shop you will ever walk into. Like it's always clean. Like we vacuum every day. I think a clean wood shop keeps clean and precise things happening. Everyone knows where tools are. But I was in the paint room and it's cold. So I have a long sleeve shirt on, plus I have a sweatshirt on, and I had one of my nicer sweatshirts on, and I'm like, I don't care that I'm in the paint room. I don't care that I'm spraying like an airless sprayer. I'm like, I'm not going to get covered in paint, but I was just testing out the nozzle real fast, and I hit the side on accident, and it came up and hit me in the face, got paint on my blue sweatshirt. And I literally stopped what I was doing, walked to the bathroom, grabbed a wet rag and wiped all the paint off my clean sweatshirt. I was like, no. This sweatshirt is not getting dirty today. Like this is not a paint sweatshirt. This is a good sweatshirt. So I laugh. It's like, but then I look down. I look down, and I had rubbed up against something else, and my pants are filthy. Like my pants have stain. They've got paint on them. Like they look like actual work pants. So from the waist down, I look like a good old woodworker. But from the waist up, I was like, no. This blue is going to stay perfectly blue.
That's funny. I've got my dedicated paint shirts.
Always yes, yep. I was like, this will not be the paint, because they're one of my staff guys. Oh man, we just got new sweatshirts, and we were painting on a job, and he was holding the lid. He was touching up something, and he dropped the lid on himself, and so his very nice blue sweatshirt has this like lid paint stain. And every time he wears it to every install now. That is his install sweatshirt.
That's
fun. Good stuff. So what you got going on in the shop? What kind of projects you guys working on out there right now?
We are finishing up one kitchen, and we started another kitchen. So we're finishing up literally one kitchen in this house over in West Tennessee, West Nashville, and we're starting to work on a really cool kitchen. It's going to be built all out of alder, which is not a normal Tennessee wood, but they're a California couple who love alder, and they're in the music world, and so this is their past clients who did some stuff for them, and then their house kept on getting flooded. So they are tearing down their house and building a brand new house. It's almost a replica of their old house, because their old house was really, really cool. So we are literally building. Yeah, we're doing a 2-story library for them, which is going to be really awesome. That's going to be an epic build. So on Thursday, we're actually going over to their house. My right-hand guy, my shop manager, Jacob, and I are going to go over on Thursday with the client and take my laser level over and make sure that we are like dead nuts center on this massive 2-story wall, because there's a catwalk involved.
Oh, wow.
It's a little crazy. So, so that whole thing is made out of alder, and then the kitchen is also alder, but we're doing like a stain and a paint, like a little bit of mixing and matching. They like all the wood grain showing. So it's going to be a very rustic style kind of kitchen. And then after that, we start a big project down in Florida that we're going to do in a couple phases. It's just kind of one of those jobs that landed in my lap. I don't usually travel to do these jobs, but it's one of those jobs that's worth it to do. So we're going to build and then go down to Florida and I'm going to send the first phase down in a U-Haul, and it's going to sit down and acclimate for a couple weeks. And then I'll take my team down and we'll do an installation for probably 5 to 10 days, and then have some fun in South Florida, and then come back up and start phase 2 and all that, while still taking on we just got another deposit for another vanity. I think I've got like 4 other vanities and another couple sets of built-ins that we've got to do while we're doing the next 3 jobs. So yeah, so we roll our projects. So we'll start a project, and then once it gets to a certain phase, we start like the next project. So we're constantly just like rolling our projects. And everyone has like their roles in the shop. So I've got Jacob is another me. And then I've got, a couple guys they're like our younger guys that do more of our grunt work, a lot of sanding. And then but everyone can build cabinet boxes and drawer boxes. And so there's a lot of stacks sometimes in the shop. It's like, you're going to build these, you're going to build these, and you're going to build these, and put your headphones on, let's go. And that's literally how we start the day. It's like, all right,
wow.
here's your clipboard. Here's your clipboard. We work on clipboards. So everyone kind of has their like cut list or their tasks for the day, and we get it done.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
it's a lot
cool.
of fun. It's a machine that's not always well oiled, but it's running.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. How about you, Tom? Any woodworking happening?
Well, I told you last time that I fell on my snowboard. I got
Right.
cut off by, and dude, I thought I was healing up. My sternum was feeling good. My rib was feeling good. My shoulder was almost back to normal. And last Thursday night, I was laying in bed and I sneezed so hard, I thought somebody stuck a knife in my chest. And
no.
my wife came running into the bedroom like, "Are you okay?" Like I couldn't roll over. I couldn't move. And so no, I can't lift anything of any significance. All my lumber, I don't have anything small. So I've literally been sitting here thinking, I think I'm going to come up with like a scroll saw project out of scraps or something, because I can't mill
Yeah.
lumber. Dude, it hurts. And
Oh man.
yeah. So I'm probably not going to be doing anything significant for probably 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And the cold weather doesn't help, does it?
Well, I've been inside mostly.
Well,
but
yeah, that's true.
yeah, and I'm stubborn. I install graphics for a living, so I make signs, and I still got to pay the bills. I got to feed the family. I got a kid in college, and so I did 3 buses, and installing the graphics is fine, but I had to remove graphics off 2 of them. And, I heated up.
That's work.
It's just pulling. And, dude, I could feel it the next day. And I was like, man, but it's, I can't not work.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not some rich dude with money laying around to take 6 weeks off and do nothing. And so, yeah, but it's been frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeesh.
But yeah, so no more snowboarding for me, at least for the next 6 weeks or so.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I had to give up the board. I'm on skis.
yeah. I used to ski, and I kept watching these kids snowboard, and I rented one day. It took me half a day to figure it out, and then I've never put on a pair of skis since. But
Okay.
But now I'm sitting here thinking, I think I'm gonna get a snow bike.
Okay.
Have you seen them?
I have seen those.
Snow
Yeah.
bike.
So a snow bike, yeah. There's 2 different styles. There's one where
I'm about to Google this.
It's
Yeah, Google it. They're cool.
rather than just look up snow bike. It's got, in place of the front wheel is one ski,
What?
but then the back wheel has 2 skis. So you're basically standing on the 2 skis. And I'm like, I think one's going to be in my future. So I don't know. I love snowboarding. I love skiing, but yeah. Hey, but you said
$2,500.
I'm gonna build one.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna get me an old bike frame. That's how they started. A guy took an old bike frame, took some old skis. I'm gonna fabricate one myself. But
That's awesome.
But what resort are you guys coming out to in March?
We'll be skiing at Copper in March.
I love Copper.
I love Copper. That's the last. I grew up skiing in Steamboat. Like we skied Steamboat
awesome.
for about a decade or so, and then we started staying in Frisco, and so we'd ski primarily like Keystone, and we'd go over to Breckenridge whenever like another family friend would be in town skiing at Breck, and so we'd go over to Breck. But we were a big Keystone family, like just doing the back area, the back bowls.
Yeah.
And then we'd skied at Copper a handful of times growing up. But then, like, I guess about 4 years ago, I had skied with some friends at Copper. Well, in grad school, I skied at Copper. Again, it had been years since it'd been since high school. So it'd been like 5 or 6 years since I'd skied there. And then grad school skied at Copper with a group of friends over spring break, and then skied Copper again a handful of years with some other friends, and then again, and then we were still skiing for out in Breckenridge, and I said to my family, I'm like, you know what, guys, this was 3 years ago. I was skiing with one of my best friends and Copper. All right, it was 3 or 4 years ago. Anyways, I was like, man, I forgot how family friendly Copper Mountain is.
Yeah, it is. It's a different.
It's a different vibe. It's a totally different vibe.
It is.
Yeah.
So if you ever, I almost don't want to give where I go away, but I go to a small resort here on the West Slope, Powderhorn. The thing about Breckenridge, the only thing worse than Breckenridge is Aspen or Telluride. And so there is this level of snootiness.
Yes.
It is a level of rich arrogance, and Aspen is by far the worst.
Yeah, Aspen is.
I love going up there and working and taking the rich people's money because they pay more than what normal people pay. But I absolutely hate going up there because I have to deal with all these rich, snooty people that they think they're better than everybody else. And it's a different vibe.
There's a different vibe. Yeah.
Same exact thing when you go to Copper, and Copper would be a much bigger resort of where I go to now. Like Powderhorn, dude, it's so laid back and the people are just chill. Like you talked about smiling. You go to Aspen and nobody smiles.
Yeah, it's true.
You go to Copper, you come to Powderhorn, everybody's like, dude, there's snow. Let's go play and have fun.
I mean, you sit on the lift and like you're just chatting, like you're talking. Yes. You literally are talking majority of the time.
Yep.
On the lift. Yeah. I love Copper. It's just like we introduced, skiing to my niece and nephews a few years ago, and they all picked it up, which we're all like, yes, this is great. Especially my brother and I, because this is our, like, I love skiing. I mean, I have a tattoo on my arm with waves that turn into mountains. Because those are literally my two loves. Like I love the beach and I love the mountains.
Yes.
And I mean, I've skied Utah, I've skied California, Nevada, like the whole thing. But at the end of the day, my heart literally gets back into Colorado. But yeah, I love the kids picked it up. It's so awesome. It's so much fun seeing them whenever we were together at Christmas, because I won't see them unless I take a random trip to North Carolina in the next couple weeks, but I won't see them until March whenever we go skiing. And my littlest nephew's 6, and he's like, I'll see you on the slopes. I'm like, yes.
That's cool. Now, you said your brother lives in North Carolina. What part?
They're up in Huntersville, so just north of Charlotte.
Yep.
Up on the lake up there. Yep. Yeah.
That's they're probably up on Lake Norman.
Yep. Yeah. Right up there on Lake Norman. Like you can see in the winter when the trees are off, when the leaves are off the trees, you can actually see the lake through their back kitchen window. So they're like in a lake community. It's funny. There's only like 4 houses in their entire neighborhood. They're not on the lake, and they're one of those 4 houses. So they have their own HOA.
That's cool.
A fake HOA.
I lived in North Carolina for 30 years and over in Fayetteville. But when I was younger and in the Air Force, I dated a girl that lived in Huntersville, and her parents had a house on Lake Norman.
On Lake Norman.
Oh, yeah. Every weekend I was up there, man. They had ski boat and out there on the wakeboard. Yeah. But,
it's fun. My sister-in-law's parents have a boat. So when I'm over there in the summer, we're out on the boat, which is really fun. It's fun.
Lake.
It's a very big lake.
It is
Yeah.
a lot of. I forget how many. I want to say it's like 1,200 miles of shoreline or something. It is crazy.
And it's like legitimately man-made. Like there are houses underwater. They flooded the lower plains and created Lake Norman. It's really, so the street that my brother and sister-in-law are on, if you go, they live near the Duke power plant. And if you go over to the new Publix, it's the exact same street. And if you look on the map, like you can actually see like where the street would actually connect through to their street. But that's a lake there.
Yep. It's crazy. That's how
it's pretty wild.
Lake Kiowee and Lake Hartwell were created that way as well. But all created for power plants.
Yeah, all for power plants. So it's pretty. It's cool. It's a cool area. I enjoy, and I'm thankful that we're less than 5.5 hours away from each other. So it's easy to hop over for to celebrate a birthday weekend or something. Something short and fast.
Yeah, that's very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Will, what are you working on in the shop?
No, it's like 34 degrees in my shop. Ain't no working happening. Ain't nothing happening out there. It's cold. Nope, no thank you. I do have stuff I need to get done at some point, but I'll wait for that temperature to rise up just a little bit and get out there. But
it's hard to work when your hands are frozen.
Right.
Our shop, I've got like some Mr. Cool units in the shop, and like we keep the shop usually around 70 degrees. The shop has been in the 50s this whole week, which is why literally we went to Costco and got 2 more of those like satellite space heaters just to throw up on the tables while we're working. Cause it's cold. Like,
when I built my shop, I put in 2 gas heaters, natural gas. And so my shop, I keep it 60 degrees all winter long.
I love that. Yeah. I really need to I was literally talking with the guys because I'm like, we need to put in like the wood burning stove or something just to like heat it up. Cause it's cold. Like, and I have concrete floors. So, and like, we're all staying on pads and whatnot. That's helping that. But it's like, your feet are frozen. Like it's been cold. So thankfully it hasn't messed up paint. Like, but we've literally had to have heaters going on the paint room. Like when we're spraying and whatnot. It's like, typically we have a 45-minute dry time between coats, and we're knocking out like 2 and 3 hours between coats right now, which is crazy.
Oh, wow.
So yeah.
Wow. Well, Stevie, tell everybody where they can find you.
Absolutely. I am Built by Stevie pretty much everywhere. Website, Instagram, Facebook, all of it. Built by Stevie. Yep. You can find me there.
Very cool. Well, we appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. I have it. The one thing I'll say about your Instagram, you talked about sharing woodwork and personal. Like, since I've been following you, I would say that your content is Jesus, dogs, and then a teeny tiny bit of woodworking. Like, you got to really watch you for a while to figure out that you're a woodworker almost sometimes. It's like, but especially when you got your new puppy last year.
Oh yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's like, and again, it's like, it's like, well, I was laughing with the guys earlier. I'm like, I need to post. I haven't posted in a while. What actually we've been waiting for professional pictures coming back from a couple of these big kitchens that we've done recently, that I'm like, my iPhone pictures are doing no justice to some of, especially with lighting. Like it's hard to get up, especially in some of these kitchens. So I'm like, I literally was telling the guys, I'm like, my younger staff, he was asking about literally we had a very similar conversation as what we had tonight. And I was like, man, I actually need to get on social media and like post. Like, people need to see that I'm doing woodworking. I'm not just like with my family in Florida. Or like,
I love the fact that
it totally is true.
Yeah, but I like the fact that you share your faith, and of course, I'm a dog lover, so the dogs are always cute.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, those will keep on getting pushed out because they're super cute. So,
all right. Well, we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on. Yeah. Thank you for coming on, sharing your faith, and not being ashamed of the gospel of Jesus, and continuing to do what you do. And fellow Tennessean, well, used to be Tennessean for me, but awesome to have you on. And yes, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Very good. Well, until next week, I'm Will from Fly Woodworks.
And I'm Tom from Mountain Valley Maker.